Singer Bob Marley, his reggae music known far beyond its roots in Jamaica, died in a Miami hospital today after a long battle against cancer. Bob Marley was 36 years old.
It's like the vision said, don't run. You know, it's like, during all of this gunshot, it's like something the vision said, don't run. Stand up. You know, them fire until it was tired of fire, and then two is naturally a lawful gun battle. Man start to run and it ease up, you know.
In Jamaica in 1976, there was always a shooting somewhere. But this, you knew some line had been crossed, something was different. There was a fear in people's voices.
The music is more than music to me. It goes further than music, you know.
We really care about you, Bob. Chris, the marketing genius, are done. Signing deals in the dark. You swim in pollution, you get polluted.
But the politician, very dangerous, you know. Politics is life and death, you know.
You never saw the gunman?
Well, at that time, no.
But you know who did it?
Yeah, I know them.
Were they caught?
No, but I don't caught the police. It's just, you know, one thing.
What if Bob Marley didn't just die? What if he was silenced? They say it was cancer, but powerful forces had every reason to want him gone. Bob Marley wasn't just a musician. He was a revolutionary, a threat to the establishment. Someone who united millions with his message of peace and defiance. So ask yourself, could a man who challenged the system so openly really pass away naturally, or was his death a carefully orchestrated operation? Today we're uncovering the chilling possibility that Marley's life was stolen and the truth buried. As the echoes of Bob Marley's unmistakable voice continue to resonate around the world, one question still lingers in the shadows of his legacy. Did he really die from cancer, or was his death the result of something far more sinister? This is the story they don't want you to hear. Marley, a man whose music wasn't just about rhythm but revolution, whose lyrics weren't just words but weapons, dared to speak a truth that was uncomfortable, especially for those in power. Imagine a young man from the hills of St. Anne, Jamaica, rising from humble beginnings to become a global icon, the voice of the oppressed and the embodiment of resistance. Bob Marley's music transcended borders, language and social barriers. His message was simple: peace, unity and love for all. But as history has shown us, people who carry such messages often become targets. Marley's journey wasn't easy. By the time he was in his 20s, he'd already survived poverty, political turmoil, and the sharp edge of prejudice. He'd risen to become a beacon of hope, and his influence wasn't confined to Jamaica. His music rippled across continents, inspiring movements and uniting people under a common cause. But with that kind of influence comes danger. And as Marley's voice grew louder, so did the threats against him. So here's the question we're forced to ask ourselves. Was Marley's death truly a tragic consequence of disease, or was it an intentional move by forces threatened by his message? It's no secret that in the 1970s, Jamaica was a hotbed of political strife. The country was on the brink of chaos, and the two major political parties, the People's National Party, PNP, led by Michael Manley, and the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, under Edward Seaga, were locked in a brutal power struggle. Each side had its own vision for Jamaica's future, and each was backed by powerful, sometimes dangerous international allies. In this volatile landscape, Marley was more than just a musician. He was a figure who transcended the divisions. His message of unity posed a threat to both sides, particularly as foreign interests became entwined in Jamaica's political landscape. But why? Why would a man advocating peace be seen as such a danger? It's here that the threads of conspiracy begin to intertwine. To understand Marley's role, we need to step back and view the political landscape of Jamaica in the 1970s, a landscape where the Cold War was reaching fever pitch. Jamaica wasn't just a small island to the superpowers of the time. To the United States and the Soviet Union, it was a strategic piece on the global chessboard. Both countries saw Jamaica as a potential ally, or enemy, depending on who was in power. The PNP leaned towards socialism, supported by the Soviet Union, while the JLP was backed by the US, advocating a more capitalist approach. The stakes were high, and in a country already struggling with poverty and high crime rates, this ideological battle turned deadly. Political parties weren't just words and policies, they were armed factions, supported by gunmen and gangs, willing to do anything to gain control. Jamaica became a battlefield, and the casualties weren't just politicians or soldiers, they were ordinary Jamaicans caught in the crossfire. Marley's music cut through this violence, calling for peace in a time when division ruled the streets. For the ordinary Jamaican, his music was a lifeline, a voice that gave them hope. But for the politicians and their powerful allies, he was a wild card. He couldn't be controlled and he couldn't be silenced by intimidation. His influence was too great, his message too pure. He wasn't aligned with either party, yet he could rally people in ways politicians only dreamed of. Then came the Smile Jamaica concert in 1976, a concert intended as a plea for peace, yet it almost cost Marley his life. 2 days before the event, armed men stormed Marley's home, opening fire and injuring him, his wife and his manager. But in true Marley fashion, he still took to the stage, wounded and defiant, singing for peace in front of tens of thousands of fans. And the message was clear. Bob Marley was more than just a musician. He was a symbol of resistance, a man who wouldn't be silenced by fear. But this begs the question, if bullets couldn't silence him, could something more insidious? That was just the beginning of the story. Keep watching, because what comes next raises even more questions about the forces that may have wanted him gone. As the years passed, Marley's influence only grew, but so did the suspicions surrounding his death. Was it merely coincidence that as his popularity soared, his health began to deteriorate? Marley was diagnosed with cancer in 1977, a rare form that started in his toe. Doctors suggested amputation, but Marley refused, citing his Rastafarian beliefs which held the body sacred and whole. Some argue this decision sealed his fate, but others ask a darker question. Was it truly cancer, or something inflicted on him by a shadowy hand? When Marley travelled to Europe in a last-ditch effort to treat his illness, it was clear he was running out of time. But was he also running from something else? Foreign agencies, notably the CIA, were heavily involved in Caribbean politics during this period, especially in countries like Jamaica, where ideological influence could sway regional power. Marley's growing voice for unity, his refusal to pick sides, and his sway over the youth made him, some believe, a dangerous man in the eyes of those who sought control. So was Marley's illness truly random, or was it part of a larger plan to extinguish a voice that refused to bend? As we unravel the mystery of his final days, we invite you to think beyond what you've been told, to question what truly happened to one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. If you're finding value in uncovering this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps us bring you even more powerful documentaries that dive deep into the questions they don't want you to ask. What we've explored so far is just the surface, the political climate, the alliances, and the man himself. These elements are only pieces of a larger puzzle. Stay with us, because next we'll dive deeper into the powerful forces that might have seen Bob Marley as more than just a musician, but as a threat that needed to be contained. As Marley's health declined, he continued to inspire, touring internationally and performing for audiences who knew little of his battle behind the scenes. He poured his soul into each performance, even as the disease took its toll. And yet, the more his body weakened, the stronger the conspiracy theories surrounding his illness grew. His departure from Jamaica for alternative treatments in Europe added fuel to the theories. Why Europe? Why, of all places, Germany? Marley's choice of an unconventional doctor, Joseph Issels, only added to the intrigue. Issels was known for his controversial, unorthodox methods, and some believe Marley's decision to seek treatment with Issels indicated a last attempt to evade more traditional, possibly sabotaged, medical care. This brings us to one of the most controversial theories yet, the alleged deathbed confession by a former CIA agent named Bill Oxley. According to this story, Oxley, on his deathbed, confessed to having been part of a covert operation to assassinate Marley, reportedly by injecting him with a form of cancer. The theory claims Oxley admitted to delivering a pair of Converse shoes laced with a toxin designed to infect Marley's body when he tried them on. In this version of events, the cancer wasn't a random illness, but a calculated weapon meant to silence Marley's growing influence. This story, however, is widely contested. Investigative sites, including Snopes and Channel 4, have thoroughly examined this claim and found no substantial evidence linking any real agent named Bill Oxley to Marley's death. The story seems to have originated on a website known for spreading misinformation, and no credible sources have corroborated the alleged confession. Additionally, the idea of weaponizing cancer in such a targeted way raises serious medical doubts. Scientists argue that creating a toxin that could precisely induce melanoma in a single toe at the right time would be nearly impossible, even by today's standards. Still, the fact that people are drawn to this theory reflects a deep-seated distrust in official narratives. People want to believe that someone like Bob Marley, whose impact was so profound, couldn't simply be lost to natural causes. In a world of secrets and spies where truth is often manipulated, it's tempting to believe there's more to the story. And maybe there is. Marley's death, coming at the height of his influence, feels too abrupt, too convenient for some. Was it just a tragic case of fate? Or was there something orchestrated beneath the surface? This was more than just an illness. To those who looked up to him, Marley's death felt like an attack on hope itself, a symbolic end to a dream of unity. This idea that someone, somewhere, saw him as a threat too great to be left unchecked continues to haunt his legacy. We may never have definitive answers, but what we can see clearly is the powerful impact Marley had, and the changed. And perhaps that's the question that scared certain people most of all. If this deep dive into Marley's life and the mystery surrounding his death resonates with you, make sure to subscribe to Thriving Threads. Your support helps us bring these untold stories to light, so together we can explore the hidden layers of history that still affect us today. Bob Marley's passing was more than the loss of a musical icon. It was a loss felt by the disenfranchised, the oppressed, and anyone who ever believed. It's this kind of influence that some argue might have made him a target. In a world where messages of unity can be seen as a threat, Marley was a revolutionary, a voice too powerful to ignore, and perhaps too powerful to allow to continue. In the years since his death, Marley's influence has only grown. His image, his words, and his music continue to inspire movements and fuel aspirations worldwide. His legacy as a cultural ambassador for Jamaica and the Rastafarian movement has been cemented in history. But with this legacy comes the ongoing debate over whether his life was cut short intentionally. For those who believe in the darker theories, Marley's death was not a natural conclusion, but a carefully orchestrated silencing, a way to stop the movement he had sparked from growing beyond control. We're left with a powerful question. If Marley had lived, what more could he have accomplished? His message of love and resistance challenged the status quo in ways that few dared to do. He united people across political divides, spoke out against oppression, and gave a voice to the voiceless. Could it be that his potential to create real change was a threat to those who thrive on division? This idea that Marley's very existence was a form of rebellion against forces that preferred a fractured, controllable society has led many to question whether his death was truly natural. After Marley's passing, the conspiracy theories didn't simply fade away. They grew stronger, fueled by the contrast between his message of unity and the violence that plagued Jamaica in the years that followed. To this day, Jamaica faces political and social challenges, and the dream of peace and unity Marley envisioned remains as elusive as ever. His death, for some, symbolizes the lengths to which certain powers might go to maintain control. As long as questions remain unanswered, the theories will persist, and so will the hope that one day the full truth will come to light. Marley's life and death serve as a testament to the power of influence. He showed the world that a single voice could rise above turmoil and inspire change. But with that power comes risk. To the people, Marley was a hero. To those who preferred the world remain divided, he might have been seen as a problem. His death feels like a painful reminder of how the voices that challenge us to think, to question and to unite are often the ones silenced too soon. In reflecting on Marley's legacy, we're also left to consider our role in this story. Are we content to accept what we're told, or do we dare to question, to dig deeper? Marley taught us to seek truth, to challenge authority, to fight for unity.